This is amazing. Welcome, everyone. Before I even start, congrats on actually getting a seat. Heard it was a little tough. My name is Krista Simon, and I lead our rapid research team here at Figma. And I am beyond excited, in case you couldn't tell, to be here in person for the rest of today with you all. Woo, love the energy, yes. So, little fun fact, my very first config was actually Figma's first config, way back in 2020, February. Anyone else at that config? Oh my gosh, yes, well, we have like 2 people, that's crazy. I guess that shows our growth, right? So I had just signed my offer, actually, to join Figma. And I walk into the config, thank you, what a time. And I walk in there and I was just blown away that there was that much excitement around our customers for a tool that they use for work. It was wild to me. But most importantly, it was amazing to see the love that Figma had for its customers from the early days. And I knew right then and there that I made the right decision to join Figma and become a Figmate, which is what we call ourselves. So we're about halfway through day 1. You made it. You have a seat. That's exciting. And we have a ton of great talks still left, and 2 really special ones still on this stage. So we're going to finish strong. Next up, we have Indya McGuffin and Matt Silva, teammates from an experience design organization at a little streaming company you might have heard of called Netflix. They're going to dive into Netflix strategy for cultivating emerging talent, coming from, you can imagine, a pretty senior talent-powered org. And whether emerging means talent, age, or experience to you, Indya and Matt are here to push our thinking about how we mentor, engage all of our new hires, and battle imposter syndrome all together. It is critical to remember to remain intentional, kind, and supportive of others in the design field everywhere. So let's give a very warm welcome to this dynamic duo, Indya and Matt. Welcome to the stage.
Wow. Hi, everyone. How's your config going so far?
We are so excited that you all are here. Now, by show of hands, who here has ever been inspired by somebody that they work with? Okay, see, 5,000 hands. 5,000, approximately. Amazing. Matt, we're in good company.
We're in good company.
Okay, and that's perfect, because today we're going to talk about personal growth and community. But before we get into that, let's get into some intros. I'll start. My name is Indya. I'm originally from Chicago. Okay. And today, I'm proud to be representing those envisioning more equitable futures through storytelling and design. I've had the pleasure of combining both of those passions, first as a children's book designer, then by teaching Stanford students the role of print design in social justice movements. Today, I have the honor of being the design operations lead for Netflix's design systems team. And I'm joined by one of my best friends at Netflix, Matt.
Thanks, Indya. Hi, everyone. I'm Mateos, but you can call me Matt. I moved here to the US when I was 6 years old. I'm originally from Brazil. Do we have any Brazilians out there? We got a few, 5,000 hands, yeah. I'm super into Marvel, as you can tell by that picture of me with Spidey when I was 6. I'm also super into music. You'll probably find me playing music, recording music with friends in my spare time. And like Indya, I'm part of Netflix's design systems team working as a systems designer. Now here's a little refresher on Netflix, just in case you need it. It's a streaming service that offers award-winning TV shows, documentaries, movies, and now has started to branch out to other forms of entertainment, like live content and games, offered to millions of subscribers across the world in 190 countries.
Now, as you can imagine, all of this beautiful work you see behind us takes a lot of work, especially when you consider Netflix both creates and distributes content. Our team, the systems team, is one of many that helps make this magic happen. The systems team is a cross-functional group spread across 3 different time zones, working on 2 different flavors of our system, which we call Hawkins. Now, if you're new to design systems, no worries, you definitely came to the right conference. It's a living ecosystem of guidelines and resources we can all use to build digital products. Also note, the design and design system is a verb, not a specific role or discipline. Hawkins is meant to be used by everyone at Netflix. Content designers, design operations leads, engineers, everyone. Okay, but why is our design system called Hawkins? Well, Hawkins is a reference to the Netflix original Stranger Things. It's the fictional town where the show is set, and we wanted our system to resonate with the Netflix community as strongly as Stranger Things has with millions of people around the world. So stealing the name was kind of a no-brainer.
Borrowing it, or
yeah,
borrowing.
Strong borrowing.
Yeah. Okay, we're starting to get to know one another, and there's at least one thing I do know we probably have in common, and that is we all need to start our careers somewhere. And whether you're just starting out now, maybe you're working for a few years, you probably aren't doing it all alone. When Indya just asked you all if you've ever been inspired by someone you work with, did a specific person or memory come to mind? Maybe of someone who mentored you, someone who took the time to affirm you, help you to feel a little less anxious about entering the industry, someone who just gave you a shot?
Okay, y'all had a moment now. Hold that person's name in your mind, and on the count of 3, we're all gonna shout that person's name out. 1, just kidding, that would've been cool, and I see the energy in the room. Y'all were ready, and I love that.
It was a test, we'll try it later. Instead, let's just keep that person, that memory in mind as we go on this journey together. We wanna share how we ourselves were given an opportunity as emerging talent, how our growth was accelerated, and share some strategies for how you too can use to cultivate talent. And when we think about emerging talent, often that's someone who's early in their career. But talent can emerge at any point. Maybe you're switching careers, you're taking on a new role or scope of work. Maybe you're just starting out. And recently, there's been a shift in how Netflix actively seeks and fosters talent. And we've experienced that shift ourselves. And we want to share our Netflix journey and how the unique aspects of its company culture have helped us to build confidence, grow and hone our skills, and develop a sense of belonging.
Now, hopefully you will look at this list. It's a good list.
It's a good list.
And you think, whoa, I did some of that. Or maybe even, I'm doing some of that right now. Well, whether you're an individual contributor, a manager, a student, part of a big team or a startup, know this talk is for everyone in the room, physical and virtual. We're here to make sure you feel empowered to empower the emerging talent around you. Or if you consider yourself emerging talent, that you feel like you can leave and take an active role in your growth trajectory.
And if what we share sounds completely new, we're so excited to start a conversation. Hopefully you leave with new questions being sparked, lots of considerations. And if you're already spending time into cultivating your talent or the talent of others, we're here to affirm those efforts. We hope you feel empowered to bring other folks into the fold. And we're here to encourage you that that effort is worth it.
Now, you might also be thinking, this is great and all, but my company, we're not really ready for it. And also the way my calendar is set up, I'm not really sure if I really have time for the emerging bit. And it's okay, it's all right, because sometimes it's about confidence and intentionality. And it's perfect because our first story focuses just on that.
That's perfect. Okay, I wanted to share a story with everyone. Picture this. I'm looking for a new job, a new challenge. And one of the places I'm looking on is Twitter. And I see this tweet. It's Josh. He's a systems lead on the Hawkins team, and he shared an opportunity on the systems team for someone early in their career. And I see this tweet, and I think a few things. I think, that sounds like me. That sounds like a perfect fit. And I also think, I really got nothing to lose, so I slid into Josh's DMs, and I sent him over a few messages. Said hello, of course, like introducing myself. Shared some of my recent relevant experience, linked to my portfolio, my resume, shared some of my, my passion for working with Figma, helping to onboard folks onto a system, which is what they were looking for. And we were off. And Josh actually responds. Can you believe it? Suddenly, I find myself in a casual chat with him. And that takes me to the first stage of the interview process, and then the next. And after quite a few long weeks, restless nights, a lot of work, I did it. I got the job. And my first week, I was feeling like this on the inside. Just so happy, so proud to be there. And I start to meet some of my wonderful teammates.
Like me.
Like India, yes. The most wonderful in them all. I can't say that, I can't pick favorites. I'm honestly just getting so much context, I'm just trying to keep up. And in that first week, something began to happen. I felt like I was being doubted. My abilities were being questioned. And I was being asked if I really deserved to be working at that company by a single person. Can you guess who? No one saw that coming. Because from the moment I applied to that job, there was a voice inside me that kept saying, no one's ever gonna fall for it. You don't deserve to be here. Does that sound familiar? And there's a name for this voice. Can you guess what it is? Imposter syndrome. Oh, you showed up, you studied.
We're ready, I told you.
To me, it prevents me from showing up as my best self, from feeling confident about my abilities, makes me feel less capable. Have you ever felt imposter syndrome just start to creep in all of a sudden without any notice? Let's go back to that first week. Let's go back to happier times. I'm meeting dozens of extremely talented partners, folks who've been at the company for over 10 years. Their craft is impeccable, and they're so confident. But perhaps most importantly, they're just so nice and supportive, and I'm instantly looking up to them. But meanwhile, I have that voice inside me. It's making me think, what am I doing here? How long can I keep this act up? I can't do this. And how did I start keeping these feelings in check? One thing that had a tremendous effect on me during that first week was the way Josh, who became my onboarding partner and one of my closest friends at work, championed me. During that first week, he gave me the freedom to take on my first design system contribution. Now, in Hawkins, we have dozens of Figma libraries with the things you would expect: components, tokens, colors, all that great stuff, but also title art, avatars, ratings, badging. And in that first week, I was tasked with adding some new flag icons to support a payments project. It was a simple update, but because I felt empowered to do that during my first week when my confidence was especially shaky, I had the freedom to try without such a strong fear of failing. And because Josh and the team trusted me so early on, I truly felt invested in the work, and I wanted to see it through to the end with high quality. Sharing that first contribution with the community at Netflix, it filled me with such great pride. And after that, I really thought, I can do this, and the people around me believe I can too. And I didn't realize how much of an impact that first contribution would have on my imposter syndrome. And I also didn't realize that these events were influenced by folks at Netflix exercising their freedom and responsibility, which we also call F&R. It's one of Netflix's defining cultural values. If you look at the Netflix culture memo, you'll find that freedom leads to chaos. if it's not coupled with a strong sense of responsibility. Let's zoom in a bit more. Freedom is about encouraging creative thinkers to question the status quo, trusting the judgment of your peers, and creating mechanisms to learn and recover. Responsibility is about being proactive and prioritizing opportunities to improve. In the story I just shared with you all about my first Hawkins contribution, Josh had the F&R to focus on empowering me to do the creative work instead of getting caught up on error prevention. In other words, how we might fix things if I managed to screw anything up during that first week. I didn't that time, but we were ready for that. And to make the system update, I was empowered to decide what the best solution was going to be. So that meant I had to start learning the system, start getting used to our workflow, gather context, meet new partners. In this instance, I met Stella, who had requested the flag icons and provided me context on their use case. All of that during my first week, it was a lot. And to do all of that, I kept those great words of wisdom top of mind. With great freedom comes great responsibility. Uncle Ben said that kind of. And so F&R can be very powerful to help folks build confidence. Consider encouraging contributions from day one. They can be things like sharing ideas for improvements, making Figma updates, commenting in a shared doc. Contributions big and small. It's about acknowledging the fact that anyone can make an impact from the very first day. Especially if you're a manager, if you have control over deliverables, how can you give folks the freedom to experiment without such a great fear of failure? This freedom coupled with responsibility can greatly help build confidence. And we can do that by building trust in ourselves and in our peers as well. Trust them to make good decisions. Last but not least, if you're feeling imposter syndrome too, good news for you, you're not alone. And you have two friends that you can talk to about it. Just don't let it consume you. It's okay to feel it. Remember those designers I mentioned I was meeting that first week? The ones who've been at the company for over 10 years? When they told me that they suffer from imposter syndrome, I just didn't get it, because how dare they? They're so confident. They're so skilled. And it's really made me learn that this self-doubt is not something that you necessarily solve, you get rid of, but it is something that you can learn how to keep in check.
And it's definitely something you can keep in check as you grow and hone your skills. In Netflix's culture memo, we also find each leader's role is to coach, set context, give suggestions and feedback, and be highly informed about their team's work. While this role is often associated with senior leadership, you'll find these skills are practiced and embraced by the entire Netflix community. And in this way, we are all in pursuit of the context required to do our best work and to enable others to do the same. As the design ops lead for my team, I practice this too. All day, I think about workflow efficiencies to help facilitate all of these connections. Like with a component, I focus on creating durable yet flexible solutions, allowing us to make sure discussions are inclusive, roles and responsibilities are clear, our teams feel in real healthy, and we execute with intentionality. Basically, we help folks get real responsible with all that freedom, that's going around. Now, it takes quite a few meetings to make this possible, and I've grown very strategic about adding time to my calendar, and I'm very sensitive about adding time to others. This meant the idea of adding an hour-long meeting to 40 different calendars made me feel a lot like this. My operational nerves were really tingling. However, this task was necessary in order to start a much-needed ambassador program for our systems team. Before the start of this year, the phrase ambassador program made me feel particularly uneasy. Have you ever been asked to do something that's been done multiple times, and you ask yourself, how am I supposed to make the difference this time? Well, not only had there been several iterations of councils and community reps even before I started Netflix, but I was asked to do this same task in my first few weeks as a design ops lead, and it failed.
Aww.
Looking back now, I realize our expectations were a bit unclear, and folks were primarily focused on adopting our system. At the time, I also didn't have enough context on how Netflix worked or how to best engage with our partners. I am happy to report today things look a little bit different. There's a much greater sense of ownership between our design and engineering communities. We'll always have to champion adoption. That is a full-time job. But now we're able to have more meaningful conversations about maintaining and evolving our system collectively. While the terms have changed, the need for context has remained the same. Our design systems crew is horizontal, allowing us to see and make connections across teams. But we simply can't be everywhere at once and need domain-specific context from our partners to inform decisions that impact the entire system. We can do this in many ways, including a well-organized ambassador program. So, when the idea for one came up, yet again, I understood the why, but I was determined to go about the how much differently. Not only because of my previous experience, but I'd honed skills and knowledge that past me did not have in her first few weeks. At the start of this newest iteration, I provided my team with the context on what a revised ambassador program could look like. To organize my thoughts, like any good ops lead, I threw together an agenda, and I was firm on some of those agenda items. We should have a space to align on the value of what we're getting and that our partners are getting by collaborating with us. We should also have a roadmap or list of conversations we wanted to prioritize so that they could feel there was a plan, something that we were all working towards. Now, once it was in a good place, I took it to our team crit, and they tore it up. They tore it up. They tore it. It's okay, though. It's okay. What I had brought was the design operations perspective, one meant to evangelize the system and communicate its value. What they added was the systems designer's voice, one meant to scale the system and facilitate adoption. After that team crit, I encouraged them to own further development of the agenda, to consider the foundational layers that I had laid down, but to create a variation that they felt would resonate best with their partners. After a few more rounds of crit, it was game time. Okay, we managed to find time on all 40 of those calendars. And it was the first meeting of our renewed ambassador program. The first topic, let's go ahead and review that agenda together again as the design team and the design systems team. And what did our design partners do? They tore it up again. But in a good way. It was a great way. In that first session, they provided context from a product designer's perspective, one meant to learn, use, and evolve the system. It was ultimately a combination of all of our perspectives that made for a sustainable and meaningful forum. This cyclical process of obtaining and applying context often gets us to a version of our vision we could have never accomplished alone. And that's why context, not control, is important. Even though I had personally experienced what went wrong with past ambassador programs, we were all responsible for asking questions and providing context until we found a way to engage that felt right. In this way, we automatically build in levels of understanding, empathy, and flexibility you just can't achieve with a micromanaged approach. Since our reboot, my teammates have facilitated workshops with all of these lovely people and even more we couldn't fit on the slide, related to the use of color and illustration in our system. With our partners, we've discussed and critiqued overlaps in usage for tags, badges, and chips. That was a very spicy discussion.
Very spicy.
We built a forum that we lead sometimes and that our ambassadors lead other times. And bonus, things are looking pretty lightweight as far as calendars are concerned. Now, we love a redemption story, but how does this apply to emerging talent? Whether you're being cultivated or facilitating the cultivation, you should note. Setting clear expectations is important. Ever been in a meeting where you show up and 5 other people show up and maybe 5 other people show up after that, and no one knows while you're in the meeting? You're just sitting there kind of looking at each other. After a few minutes of awkward silence and small talk, you think, we should probably have an objective the next time we get together. Spend time defining with stakeholders what's available to solve and your immediate goals. Understand at a high level what success looks like and be open to the multiple solutions possible to achieve it. Also know, actions speak louder than words. Be inclusive and lead by example. I firmly believe a part of what accelerated my growth at Netflix was observing and learning from the talented individuals around me. These thought leaders were not tasked with controlling my every move, but they were expected to share context, and they modeled, all in their individual ways, how to achieve high quality and high craft in work. It's also important to embrace feedback, especially if you're new or up and coming. Build confidence in your filter for what feedback you need to apply, throw out the window, save for later. It's such an important skill for working collaboratively. If you're a manager or ops lead, consider how your team's culture influences your feedback forums. Do they only feel comfortable sharing polished pieces, or is work in progress okay too? Sharing work and ideas creates much more than the opportunity for greater diversity in thought. Perhaps you discover parallels between your project and another. Or, if you're like me, you're inspired to copy the way somebody organized their Figma file for your next project. Providing feedback can showcase knowledge that uplevels everyone's skills. As Matt shared, there are excellent opportunities to build confidence when folks are encouraged to try. I determine my own personal style of ops from my failures as much as my wins. In school, I wasn't the best coder, and that's all right. But I did need to understand what an API was and the value of codifying elements in our system to properly evangelize it. So I booked time on my engineers' calendars, and I asked tons of questions. Multiple attempts at facilitating conversations and developing adoption strategies made me realize making sure folks feel acknowledged and welcomed was a core part of my ops style. Starting meetings with music is a part of that style too. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, when failure happens, it kind of sucks, and your confidence may take a hit. It doesn't mean the game is over. It means you got to reflect, train a little bit more, and maybe tag in a few teammates.
Speaking of teammates, remember this question from the start of the talk? I want to take us back to that question one more time about someone who maybe influenced the way you work, someone who just gave you a shot. In the stories we've shared so far, you might have noticed we weren't alone. We had some pretty amazing teammates rooting for us the whole way through as we built our confidence and grew our skills. There was a point in our journey at Netflix where we started to spend less time questioning whether we belonged and more time contributing to that community that was embracing and nurturing us, the dream team. Everyone's definition of a dream team may look different. Have you ever been on a team that just really worked, or one that really didn't? Sometimes personalities don't mesh. You might not feel like you fit, or you might be on a smaller team, and that too can feel very overwhelming. But on any team, you're bonding through shared struggles. Maybe you're a team of one, and you're hoping to find a wider community to connect with at your company. Investing time in team culture is important, and it impacts the way we think about our work and the way we treat each other. Are you having important and honest conversations about how you can make each other feel supported, how you can create an environment for that? Are you developing strategies together to address that? At Netflix, we have found that a dream team involves folks that invest in the well-being of those around them. And somebody who perfectly embodies that for us at Netflix is our good friend and teammate Nofel. He's a design technologist on the Hawkins team, and he's quite patient and generous with his time. He takes time to coach us on things like how to work with an API, how to work with tokens, explaining just what server-driven UI is. But he also takes time to talk about life with us, financial fluency, home building, just taking the time to check in on us. And although we look up to him as a mentor, we feel no judgment in terms of the differences we have in experience. He treats us like equals, and in turn, we feel like an equal part of the team. Bringing this back to team culture, how is your team encouraging openness? How is it asking questions? How are you making space to acknowledge both the pressures and the difficulties of our jobs, of our daily lives, but also the wins and the progress? Those are important too. We may not always have the capacity or the time to give advice, but that's okay because sometimes all people need is a little empathy and to know you're right there with them.
On our dream team, you'll also find an active appreciation for diversity in thought and experience. Netflix is built for a global audience, and our team reflects that too. This especially comes to life in the ways we celebrate each other.
One example is our forum that we have at the company called What We're Made Of. A couple of quarters ago, I was able to participate along with my friend and fellow Brazilian colleague, Davi. This is a forum created to celebrate the tapestry of backgrounds and cultures that we have that make up the company. Davi and I represented Brazil in the session that we participated in, and we've had many others with friends like Alex, Davey, Prashant, Jasmine. And this is a moment for us to highlight the connections between our cultures and the company. Davi and I shared stories about what Netflix is like in Brazil. How do people use it there? What kind of content do they enjoy the most? So what we're made of is a chance for us to get to know each other, but also become more informed about the audiences we are creating for.
Another way we celebrate what makes us, us, is a special space called Hobbies and Side Hustles. 3 members of Netflix's community, Russ, Alney, and Morgan, spun up this super amazing forum where we spend a lunch hour talking about all the things we do in addition to entertaining the world. It reminds us we're a lot more than the UI we build and the memos we write. How else was I to know my friend Chewy was combining her love for dance and augmented reality in her spare time, or that Gata loves to sail? I've had the pleasure of moderating this forum, and time again, participants show what we do on the side impacts who we are at work.
And speaking of who we are at work, how well do you know your teammates? Do you mostly just talk about work? We're more than just product designers, ops leads, content designers, engineers. We're connected by all of our different experiences, our passions, our experiences. I already said that. Are you taking time to discover and celebrate that diversity? These rituals don't have to feel like small endeavors. Take some of these ideas, adapt them for your own needs, but focus on making them consistent and sustainable. Don't forget, it doesn't all have to be owned by a single person, because building culture is a community responsibility.
Lastly, our dream team fosters a community that's excited by potential. There is a lovely individual we work with. His name is Kevin.
Kevin.
And you know, he comes up with these amazing ideas and concepts. You know he's going to share something particularly mind-blowing when he randomly slacks you. Do you want to see something cool? No, the answer should always be yes. I don't know why he asks us.
It's an
that
invitation.
anymore. Okay, sure.
He knows you're
sure,
gonna say
sure.
yes. It's that same energy that encourages other rituals we have, like our weekly Weiwo. What are you working on? It was originally started by our friend Andy Lucas, and it's super simple. Once a week, I take to Slack and I ask folks to take a quick break to share Weiwo, what they're working on that week. It's meant to be quick and easy, and for us to be vulnerable with each other because we're sharing work in progress in a channel that has like 200 plus folks in it. It's also a chance for us to spark new opportunities to connect overlapping work and to celebrate each other. And I love this ritual so much that when I had the chance to go from not only participating in it, but to driving it, I also said yes.
I'm passionate about team rituals too, particularly those that positively influence our team's health. Working remotely, it can be hard to make genuine connections. So I appreciate all the bandwidth my team has given me to try new ways for us to check in. At the beginning of the year, several folks told me they wanted dedicated time to get to know each other on a personal level. So now monthly, we do team time. For our April session, our teammate Chu created this beautiful Coachella-inspired activity that was super fun to do. It only took 30 minutes, but we were able to learn and ask questions about personal music tastes, and now all of my meetings are set up with the best music.
The best.
It's been amazing to work with folks excited to try new things, happy to co-own these rituals with me, ready to give feedback when there are opportunities for improvement, and who are always asking, what if? Take a moment to think, what's the appetite for experimentation on your team? When we build excitement for potential into team culture, we leave room for exploration. We can normalize feedback in the iterative process that comes after. Now, you can operationalize this effort to encourage participation, but it isn't a box you can check after doing one thing one time. The methods we use to explore impact the way we acknowledge and amplify the people around us.
And at Netflix, we believe that when highly capable people work well together, they can inspire each other to be more creative and ultimately more successful as a team than they could be individually. And Indya and I have come to realize that building the dream team involves this and so much more. Maybe your version of the ideal team is built upon these three aspects: investing in the well-being of those around you, appreciating diversity in thought and experience, being excited by potential, but there's so many other avenues to explore. We hope this was inspirational, and we encourage you to think about what would put the dream in your dream team.
Now, while we're here talking about great teams, we wanted to send a huge thank you to some of the folks that got us to this stage. First, shout out to Miggy, our content review partner from Figma. Y'all, he got us hyped, okay? He got us ready to talk to you. Shout out to our stunning and supportive Netflix colleagues, especially those that helped workshop this talk.
I wanted to give a special thank you to Indya for being here with me.
Oh, same to Matt.
For sharing this journey.
Okay, throwing that in.
I was surprised. And also thank you to the friends who took the time to share their own emerging talent stories with us. Because it was those stories, along with our own experiences, that inspired this talk. And throughout that journey, we uncovered principles for growth that we believe many people can relate to and empathize with. Perhaps you weren't able to relate to making your first systems contribution or building an ambassador program, but you still see yourself as someone who is building confidence, growing and honing your skills, developing a sense of belonging, whatever form that comes in. And we felt moved to tell our stories because we know there are so many stories unfolding here in the audience, at home, in coffee shops, on social media, in meeting rooms where folks sit around tables that are both virtual and physical. There will always be new people entering the industry, always be people shifting and pursuing new opportunities, new roles. So not only are the opportunities for emerging talent bountiful, but building the skills to empower those around you to do their best work is crucial to the future of the industry we're all contributing to. As Miggy once told us, you can be a gatekeeper, or you can be the person that gives someone the key. When we begin to look to each other for the new perspectives we can bring, and not the lack of experience we may have, we realized companies can unlock new opportunities to innovate, to evolve, by cultivating that up-and-coming talent.
Today, we shared how elements of Netflix's culture have influenced us and the community that helped us along our journey. We can all be inspired, but we can also ask, even Netflix, what's next? As we continue to explore the creativity and ownership that freedom and responsibility enables, how do we challenge ourselves to remain accountable to designing experiences meant to exist in harmony? As we ask ourselves, what is a dream team and who's on it? How do we challenge the biases that hinder our ability to create equitable teams, empathize and uplift others, and have us underestimating the people around us? As we seek out our dream team, how do we avoid automatically disqualifying ourselves? Can we use a job description to start a conversation? You see those words as an opportunity for growth.
And if all this culture shaping and questioning sounds like a lot of work, you'd be right, because it is.
It is.
It is
It's
a lot of work, but it's worth it. Remember, progress isn't linear, and every step counts. In fact, your next step is vital. And it can be a small step. Right after this talk, send a teammate a message. Tell them the work they are doing is inspiring. Or thank them for taking the time to explain that one thing that they've already explained to you like 200 times.
Right.
I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it one day. It can also be a larger step, like investing in a new internship program.
Whether it's reaching out to schedule a chat with someone at this conference, particularly someone whose job you've never heard of, or even kicking off your own hobbies and side hustles forum, we challenge you to take a moment today to invest in what will be an ongoing effort. Soon, you'll discover that by supporting others with intention, honesty, and an open mind, you'll find new meaning in your work. Thank you.
Thank you so much.